Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Wellness Blueprints. I'm Jess Milner. I'm so glad you're here to nourish your roots with me. I am a master nutritionist, functional blood work specialist, and quantum energy healer. We combine all of that, and I just like to say spiritual nutrition because that's really what I've been doing, right? So, anyway, I'm so glad you're here today. I wanted to do a little talk about, well, it's really stemming from something that's happened to me personally this week, but I wanted to really use this as an example because so much of what I teach, so much of what I coach all of my clients on is, to have that spiritual wellness, spiritual mind, your mind, your emotions, as well as your physical wellness. I'm always talking about things like that. And there's always like an amount of growth that is involved, and, we're always succumbing to like these patterns that we have that we layered on from when we were younger, and they're supposed to be there. Like nobody did anything wrong. So, but we're constantly like at the mercy of all of these patterns and everything. So when we get to start to like observe those and work through them, you can really notice a big change in how you respond to stressful situations. And and now this my little stressful situation this week that, has to do with technology, which, so this is a relatively new thing to be stressed out about in the grand scheme of things, depending on how old you are. But, even before we had all this great technology and stuff, there was still, things that would just, since the beginning of time, there were things that would just kind of make us freak out and go into this like fight or flight, like, oh my gosh, everything, like everything's falling down around me and like this is going to be terrible. And the truth of the matter is most of the time whatever it is that's stressing us out is not like a life or death situation. Like every now and then, there's something going on, there's an emergency or something, hey, and that is exactly what your fight or flight is for. That is a completely normal thing. Feel your emotions. So that's not what I'm talking about here. But for example, so last week I was noticing my phone. I have the new Samsung Z Flip 6, and I had the Flip 3 for years. My husband has the 5. I never really had a problem with the 3. Aside from it like running out of space. But my husband's had a couple little issues with his 5. But anyway, last week I was noticing that I could not charge it when it was closed, which was weird. So for a couple days, it was like the day before Thanksgiving and stuff. I was like, wow, this is really strange. I was like, well, I'm gonna go over on Friday and just, I pay like $5 and they send out a new one for the warranty. Well, on Thanksgiving, there was a couple times that I opened it and like the screen wasn't working. I would open it and close it and open it again a couple times and it would work again. But right before dinner, it stopped working. Like the inside screen was just frozen. So I was like, okay, nothing was working. I Googled a couple of things and, nothing was working. So I'm like, okay. So now a couple of years ago, I would have been in like a full on panic mode. Like, oh my gosh, like what if like all of my pictures aren't backed up? I can't do the smart switch. There's, there is a little bit of like drama that could be involved in this and everything. But I was able to just kind of sit back and go, well, this is what's going on. So, everything's going to be fine as soon as I get a new phone. And, if I lose a couple of things, then so be it. I have like some content on there, for reels and stuff like that. And, well, maybe we just re-record those. So, we'll see. Everything is going to be just fine. And I was like, all right, well, maybe I'm just going to take this time to kind of sit back and be present with my family and this and that. And, so I still have access to stuff because I have my laptop, and there are, 3 other smartphones in the house. So, I'm not completely like in the dark or anything like that. But, there were some concerns and everything. And I know how I would have even just felt uh, previously. So, when we can absolutely dig into the different patterns and observe them and then just be able to kind of be aware and rewire those, and there are steps to take to do that, then that initial feeling that you get doesn't always like show up. So like, for example, I know that, when I would have found that out before, like picking up my phone, like, oh my gosh, like everything's gone. I can't get into anything. Okay, like I would have been like, it would have been like right in here. My heart would have been bump, 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 pounding. I would have felt it right in the pit of my stomach, and then it would have shot down, and I would just feel like everything bubbling up, and I would be angry and upset. I would probably be taking things out on people when, like, like snapping at people at the Thanksgiving table, like, oh, well, I can't even get into my phone to take a picture. And I was like, well, whatever, it was funny too, because my sister had sent me Thanksgiving pictures of her and her family. So the last thing that I did before my screen totally froze was go, "Oh my gosh, that's so great! Here's some pictures of us." So there was the turkey crudité that my daughter made, and the picture of all of us. My mother-in-law was here, so I sent those to her, and then like my screen never worked again. So I was able to text her, through my husband's phone. I texted her and I was like, "Can you send those pictures to him, so that I could get them emailed to me and downloaded, so that I was able to post them and stuff like that." I was like, "It's just funny, that like the picture, the couple pictures that I wanted for Thanksgiving, the last thing I did was send them to somebody." But, I would have been snapping at people at the table. I really wouldn't have handled it very well. I would have been very crabby and very, very worried about what was going to happen. Where's everything going to go? As if it's the end of the world. Because when you really sit back and think about it, what's the worst that's going to happen? Some things are going to be lost. Is there something terribly wrong with my body? No, there is not. Is there something wrong with my family? No, there is not. Is there something wrong with my home? No, there is not. So, I wasn't like able to post a lot and post to stories and everything too much about any Black Friday things going on. But hey, I was like, well, the universe has given me a signal. Like, I was like, and I'm just gonna chill out and let this be how it's gonna be. I did, of course, go and try and get service done on the phone and this and that and everything. And of course, it's on back order. So I'm still patiently waiting for a new one, but that's fine. I'm totally managing with everything. So, when you really, most issues, especially, honestly, like, especially the ones that make you, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, especially those, if you really sit back and think about it, you're going to be fine. It's not actually the end of the world. I have a friend of mine, a mentor that, she would talk about money, and I'd heard her say to other people, like, what is the worst that happens, like if you're unable to pay that bill or you're unable to do this, like, she's like, let's be serious about this, like there are things in place to help people when they don't have any money. There are things going on with this, like, you have to kind of just sit back and be able to look at it from a different perspective. So that's really one of the big things, when you have your mind and your body coming together. I told you how, like, what stress used to do to my body. And there's absolutely a physical aspect when you experience like super emotional stress. And really, because a lot of it is, there is like an underlying misunderstanding. There's an underlying wound that is coming up. And that is what, it's like a stress memory that pops up when these new things happen. So then you're kind of like, okay, well, I think that I'm completely justified in freaking out over this thing, but it's probably something coming up from the past that is making you think that it is, and it's really just a memory of that. So you do want to be able to kind of sit back and just be aware, like, oh my gosh, this physical symptom was triggered. Have you ever been, you're nervous or excited about something, and like your tummy gets all bubbly and like you need to fart and poop more, or when you're like, oh my gosh, like we have to leave, we're getting ready to go on this like long car trip. I'm only going to have two little sips of coffee and I'm not going to drink a bunch of water because I don't want to have to pee every 20 minutes. And no matter what you do, like you're going to have to be, because you're thinking about it. When you get into this stressed out state, your physical symptoms are going to show up and they're going to manifest there, and they're going to be like, hey, what's going on? So what we can do is start to recognize these patterns. And here's the thing, because when we're like, okay, like, all right, well, I recognize the pattern, now what, Jess, how do I fix it? Okay, you don't have to actively try to fix it. That's part of our thing with our stress, is that when something happens, we are constantly like, I have to do something about it. How do I fix this? I need to make it better. And you don't always have to do that. Sometimes, really most of the time, just observing what's going on and being aware of it is half of the battle. to just sit there and go, okay, well, I'm kind of feeling this way. All right. And I'm feeling this way in my body, or I'm not feeling this way in my body. Wow, that's great. And that's how I felt this time around. Cause, I mean, like, yeah, some thoughts popped into my mind, like, oh shit, like all those videos and stuff, like, where am I going to get those back? Whatever. What's okay. Like, I still have my notes from it. We'll just re-record them. It's fine. Like, well, oh my gosh, what if I lost all of these pictures over the last several months? Well, you know what? I posted a lot of them to social media. I sent a lot of those pictures and videos to friends and family. Most of them can be recovered. And then I also reminded myself, here we are in 2024, almost to 2025, and everything is documented now. I mean, children who are born now or with the last 15 years have more pictures taken of them on the first day of life than like we had for like the first 6 months, right? Depending on who your parents were, of course. But, it's just so much more, so much more. And I'm like, well, it is what it is. I recently realized that like on my computer, on my phone, like everywhere that I'm looking, there's like an entire year where I don't really have very many pictures of the family and stuff. I'm like, where the hell is this entire year? But I was like, whatever. I know my husband has lots of pictures of the family from that year in his Google photos. So like it's fine. You know? So being able to like sit back and go, okay, well, I didn't freak out over that this time, like I'm feeling pretty calm. And, so we want to recognize these things and we want to observe them. And by just recognizing and becoming aware and observing them, it's like it turns into a meditation, because then, as these things happen more and more, you find yourself just like, oh, well, look at that. I didn't even think about it, but my entire body didn't react in the same way. So it's not, I mean, for example, like your body could react, like you could be like, oh my gosh, like shit's hitting the fan, right? And then, consciously tell yourself, okay, I'm all right, relax. Like I'm gonna calm down here. Everything's gonna be fine. And that's awesome when you can find yourself in that moment and calm yourself down. Excellent. Uh, but when something like this happens and you're like, oh wow, like I feel rather calm. It's like having this understanding that no matter what it is that's going on in the world or in your life, outside your door, whatever you're talking about, everything's exactly as it's supposed to be, as it should be at any given moment in time. And sometimes that can be like really difficult to even imagine, depending on what's going on in your world, but it is the truth. It's exactly how it's supposed to be at this very, very moment. So when you have that understanding, then you can kind of just surrender to what is going on and be able to keep yourself in a place so that because the goal here is to not allow these high stress things to cause you to get sick. If my body had gone insane and I was just absolutely freaking out, I would probably have some kind of nasty virus between now and Christmas or on Christmas, just because when your body is so stressed out, your immune system is down. I've talked before about your heart chakra and your thymus gland and how laughter is the best medicine for that because it actually does help you produce more T cells, which is better for your immunity versus being in grief or high stress, and of course, you get that boom, 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 boom when something is going wrong. So, just being aware and remember, you don't have to try and fix anything right then and there. It's just being aware and then take, your small steps. So I wanted to give a little info here. I literally carry this like around with me in like in my bag, like when I travel and stuff. This is my emotional balance toolkit. Anybody who's watching on YouTube can see. Um, but this has amazing stuff in here that I actually do, I mean, simple things like identify the emotion, pause and breathe. You can assess the situation. I have a 5 4 3 2 1 grounding method, it's like it's like a sensory scavenger hunt, and, so I mean, this is, oh my gosh, I think it's like 8 pages long. And this will give you tools. Like you don't need a fluffy pillow. You don't need to go find a nice, pretty spot in the wilderness surrounded by flowers to do all this. Now, I mean, if you have those things, awesome. But you don't need those things, for this to work. This has been amazing. And I'm always somebody who's practicing what I'm preaching. And I do, like, I made this thing and I'm like, I have to have this with me all the time because you never know. I'm like, I mean, yeah, like I have it most of it up here, but sometimes when you're in a really like crazy situation, you're like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, my brain, all right, my brain is throwing a tantrum. What am I going to do? You know, yeah, it just helps you to kind of like look at something and like bring it out. So, this this thing, it's only $7. So, I mean, go grab one. You'll go to go.deeprootedwellnessid.com/balance, and you're going to get your emotional balance toolkit. It's just $7. I mean, oh my gosh. So, grab that, because it really is like, it's full of tools that help. And I've been using that, oh my gosh, since the beginning of this year. I've had that specific one, always around me. I've had to print it out more than once because it gets all tattery. But yeah, so I've actually been using that for quite a while. But it is important to be able to kind of bring yourself back to that spot. I've talked before about, one hand over the heart, other hand over that, and taking your breaths, because it actually like unswitches your nervous system. It makes it not confused. Your nervous system gets confused. Just like you get confused. Like anything can kind, like when something gets a glitch, like maybe you're like, oh my gosh, this website's not working. So you have to like refresh the page, and then it's like, okay, now it's going to work, right? Or sometimes you have to do more than that. But it's something going on, because it's like, okay, something is confused somewhere along the line. And sometimes it's super simple to just put it back, especially when it's talking about something that has to do with stress, with emotions, with your mind, because you can control like your mindset. You can rewire those patterns through like this magic of neuroplasticity. Like we can rewire all of these patterns. And that's what we do in magnetic quanta with the help of the quantum frequency blueprint. And we just did a radiant reset. I'm going to do another one next week. And that is free to attend if you want to learn more about that. But it's also, it's important to understand what it is that happens to your body when you're under emotional stress, because when we're under a constant state of stress, and so you have your fight, flight, fawn, and freeze. And when your body's constantly in that state, it's not resting, it's not digesting, it's not healing, at least not properly. Okay. So we want these things to be working properly. You want to be able to slow down and activate your vagus nerve, your parasympathetic nervous system, so that these things can properly work. There's a time and a place for our fight or flight. Absolutely. There's a reason why it was put in our body. There were no mistakes, for as in terms of why things happen inside of our body. These things are alarm systems, when if you have like a giant boulder like running right for you, yeah, you're gonna and you're gonna, like, I gotta get out of the way. And so hopefully you don't ignite your you don't unleash your freeze there, the deer in headlights thing. But yeah, these are things that are absolutely necessary, and I'm so grateful that our bodies are able to do all of these things, because our body is it's sending us messages, and then we can be thankful for ourselves. We can nourish ourselves with emotional work, with physical work. So, if you want to know more about the emotion, the what happens to your body when you experience emotional stress, and learned some more ins and outs of your physical, even in terms of your lab work. Obviously, I'm a functional blood work specialist. I read labs, but I also read them in a way that nobody else does, because I'm able to actually align those with your quantum frequency blueprint. But in terms of the markers on there are little secrets, there are clues inside of there that anyone can really understand if you just look at it. So I have a course that I put together. It's a $999 course. There are 5 modules in there, and it talks about different blood work and some different blood work markers, and then it goes over that emotional aspect of everything and what that actually physically does to your body. And I'm selling that for just $77 instead of 99. So, yeah, that is absolutely amazing to kind of give you, your background and put the power back in your court, really, because you have the power to be an advocate for your health. You have the power to get your emotions in check. You have the power to get your health in check. And obviously you're going to want guidance from a practitioner like me, or from doctors, or from, whoever it is that you need to be working with, because we all have different things going on with our health. And so maybe you want to see me for some things, but You need to see somebody else for other things. But you want to be able to be an advocate for yourself and truly understand what's going on. So, I always say things that I've always said this clinically and on my virtual programs. I've always said, I'm like, I don't want you to stop eating this and do this with your lifestyle and take these supplements and do all this stuff because Jess said to. I want you to understand why that is a good choice for your body. I want you to understand what's going on some level. You don't have to understand it on the same level that I do, but on some level, have an understanding of that, because then that puts the power back with you. It gives you control back over your life. And that's what I want to do. I want to empower you to go out there and be like, no, I actually do know something about this. And, even though this isn't diagnosable, doc, I'm looking at this right here. So what do you think? Can we run a test for this just to make sure? Um, you know and it can really really just help you be like such an awesome advocate for yourself and for your family. So if you want to grab that, that's at go.deeprootedwellnessid.com/magic. So go ahead and grab that if you want to. $77. And I mean, there's so much information in that. I'm pretty much just like giving it all away for free. It's not free, but it's like almost free in comparison to what it's actually worth, because yeah, there's so much information there. But when we are experiencing these things where we feel like it's the end of the world in that moment, and most of the time it's not, like I said, sometimes like I said, there's shit that goes on, but we live in a world. This is a human experience we're here having, and sad and annoying and frustrating, and things happen. It's part of the experience. But a lot of happiness happens too. So, we have to kind of take all of it. And sometimes it's a really good idea to take a neutral perspective to things so that you can just kind of sit back and be able to observe things and go, all right, you know what? I don't need to react right now. You want to be able to have a moment before you react, because you want to pick your reaction like you're choosing an outfit to wear. You want it to look good. Right? We want it to look good. And I mean, have you ever known somebody that they have a tendency to just like speak in a tone, like when they're, somebody says something happens and they turn around, "Bah, bah, 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 bah," and it's just a very a like accusing tone. Like it's just it's a negative tone that comes out, and it's like, well, why are you jumping down my throat with that tone? It's not what you said, it's how you said it, that kind of thing. And that is a snap, like knee jerk reaction that's stemming from something much further down. Because when we are not like consciously doing something, our subconscious takes over. So most of the time it's your subconscious in the driver's seat. And that is why these patterns are constantly freaking winning, because we're over here doing this thing. We're not present in the moment because, that's what happens. And these things go on. It's the same type of thing as when you're driving home and you're like, holy shit, how did I just get to my driveway? I don't even remember driving here. You're kind of like on an autopilot. Your subconscious will take over with the patterns that you have set there when you were little. Um, and that's how it is. Like I said, it's a human experience. It's not like something wrong with you. But when we start to observe these things, we can truly change how we react to stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, I got the sauce. Come join me. Come have some fun. Um, it's fun. We laugh, we cry. I love it when people come to heal with me. And we're healing, we're healing from such a deep down level. It's just amazing. It's amazing to work with everybody, and people who truly want to change these patterns. Things like like maybe you're a mom at like me, and you kind of think back and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally flipped out on my kids because I was stressed out about this, that, and the other thing, that are adult things that they don't even know about. And I had this reaction, and then I feel like I yelled at them too much today, or whatever the case is. And as we go through and work to rewire these patterns, you'll find yourself not doing that, or not nearly as often. You'll find yourself able to sit back, and you'll find it also very easy to come forward and apologize when something happens, because, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have reacted in that way. And that's always important when we wrong someone, to just say, hey, like, sorry that I was acting like a total spaz. But I'm happy to say that in this instance, this weekend with, this week, oh my gosh, it's already Tuesday. So yeah, it's been the better part of a week already. And I haven't lost my shit over it. And that's pretty amazing. That is a huge transformation from years past. And because I can remember when I first set up my deep rooted wellness page, it was called Life Glorious Life then, and on Facebook, and I was getting some good traction on it and everything. And there was like some weird glitch in Facebook, so the page still existed. Nobody was posting anything to it, but I suddenly was like removed as an admin, so there was no admin for the whole page. And of course, I couldn't get in touch with Facebook and everything. I was completely panicked, like I was freaking out because, I didn't know what to do. And I was like trying to contact Facebook every day. Eventually had to set up a new one. And then I did merge them because one day, like 3 months later, ba-boom, I'm like, your page is back. So it was very strange. And it took a lot. And yeah, I also thought that I also thought that during that time would be a good time to pee on a stick and realize that my youngest was on his way. So this was going back about 7 years. But yeah, oh, more than that, I guess, because he's going to be 7 in February. But yeah, it was a completely different response in terms of what was going on inside of my body. And it was actually a way less issue because I mean, I only had like 100 followers on the page at that point. So it really wasn't even that big of a deal to like message everybody and be like, I'm just moving over here because I don't know what's going on. And it was fine. Like everything turned out fine. And was anybody like hurt? No, nothing like that. But my body flipped out. Like my body freaked out over that. And I didn't have anything like that this time. So it is possible to have transformation and keep your calm and keep your nervous system in a place where you can remain calm and have a better chance at staying healthier because when we are stressed out, physical things are happening and we're having calcium depositing in places and everything. And it causes a lot of inflammation. It causes physical pain. It causes more issues that actually hurt. And then you're like, well, shit, now I got to go to the doctor because this, that, and the other thing is all messed up because, maybe while you were like so stressed out, you slept really messed up. And then, like your shoulders and your neck and like you can hardly move. These things go on. And I'm not saying that like it's because, you didn't handle stress in the right way whenever something like that happens, but these are some of the things that can happen that are, that the stress is a huge contribution towards. So go ahead and grab my offerings here. The emotional balance toolkit for $7. It's going to be go.deeprootedwellnessid.com/balance. So grab that for just $7. Keep that in your pocket and be sure to come back next week. I am going to be doing some things that are a little bit more holiday themed over the next couple of weeks because we are full swing into the holiday season here. It is now December. So I hope that everybody is enjoying their holiday season so far. I'm sending you so much love and sparkly energy. And even though, it doesn't matter what's going on, I'm sure everything is going to end up being okay. And yeah, it's just how, life throws things at you and you can catch them and play back, or you can try and dodge them. I don't think that works out too well, but it's all just part of this experience. And I can't wait to see you in my Radiant Reset or in any of my programs. I can't wait to be your biggest cheerleader. I can't wait. I'm telling you, I got the sauce. So please, I can't wait for you to just be able to come and heal with me. But until next time, have a great day.